These are just some additional tips when you're cleaning your Haag-Streit binocular head prism assembly. When you take it out of the shell, remember to take the bigger screws out to remove the prism assembly. You don't want to take the little screws out because those are the alignment screws. When you take the larger screws out after you have marked, after you've made a mark, so that when you put it back in, you're going to put it back in this as close as possible to the same spot. But after you take those screws out and you get your prism assembly, see, if you were to have taken these alignment screws out, you would have dislodged this disc that the prisms are glued on. They're supported a little more with this bracket, but they're glued onto this disc right here. And if you remove that, then that whole disc is loose. And you just don't, you never want to do that. But if something happened and you made a mistake, or someone else made a mistake for you, if this disc is loose with the prisms, one way you can perhaps get it back into a close enough alignment so that you can tweak it when you actually install it on your slit lamp and looking through your eyepieces, is if you were to look on the left side, you'll notice the bar that's supporting the prisms that are glued down is on the left, and it's going towards an angle. So you see, this is the left, and if we turn it over, we can see this bar, and it's over going that way. So you want to position your disc so that your bar is going in that direction, sort of like a 45 degree. And when you put it in, you probably see some little marks on the inside of this disc where the screw originally was, where the adjustment screw was originally touching the disc. You might see a little mark, and you can try to line it back up so that it's close to the mark. There'll be a mark on each position where the screw was. And you try to line it up. And then as you're tightening those set screws, to get it close, just try to have an equal amount of space all the way around. Now it's not going to be perfect, because you're going to have to tweak it once you put everything back together and put it on your slit lamp. But that will get you in close if you needed to reinstall this disc back onto this part, with the left is going that way. Now the right, here's the right, it's on this side, and it's going that way. So that's a clue too. if this disc were missing or off because of the mistake of taking these screws out or loosening them too much so that this was completely loose, then just a guide that on the right side your support bar is on the right, and it's 45 degrees that way. So when you're putting it back together, you can use that as a guide to say, okay, how does this disc go on? Okay, I've got to make it so that my bracket is angled. Right is going that way and the left is going that way. And similarly here, if it were completely loose, then you would tighten your screws after you located the spot that it was originally set on, and you would again just get the same amount of space all the way around, and that'll get you close until after you put everything back together, till you put this back in the Prism shell and everything, and looking through your eyepieces. So hopefully you'll never have to do that, but I'm telling you that in case that ever happens, and for me, in case that happens and I need to correct it. Now, another thing on these additional tips, just do one side at a time. The left, do that, and then do the right. If you try to do both of them together, now I've got the pieces all separated here. I'm going to be very careful about maintaining, but if you try to do all the parts together, it's possible that you're going to get some pieces mixed up. The left would be on the right and they'll be mixed up. So a good rule of thumb is just work on one side at a time, break it down, clean it, put it back together after you've re-greased it. But if somehow, for whatever reason, the parts were mixed up, here's some little tips. Now inside here on this eyepiece cylinder slider that slides in and out, right here, and the track, it's going to go in and out as you're screwing it in. Okay, you have a slider on both the left and the right, but the one on the left, and they both have a little hole, two holes on either side of the track, but the left, each one has a pin. This one has a pin in the hole, if you can see it, and this hole doesn't have a pin. Well, the pin is going to be on towards the inside. This is the left. The pin is on the inside, so that when you're putting it back together, your eyepiece back together, then when it's time to put this cover on, it's got the notch for the pin, and that will go when you put that on, it will find the pin. It will find the pin on the right. On the inside, this is the left. So see, the pin is on the inside, and so when this cover is put on, it's going to find that pin sticking out, and it will be on the inside. Now on the right, we have our track, we have our two holes. This time the pin is on the inside also. And so when we're putting it back together, and we're putting our cover on, it's going to find the pin on the inside also. See, it's on the inside. So if you were happen to get these mixed up, just remember that the pins are going towards the inside. Okay, this pin is inside here on the left, the right, the pin is right here on the inside. So if these were to get mixed up, you'll just have to try to remember that, or I will have to remember that the right, the pin is on the inside, and the left, the pin is on the inside. Those are just some additional tips I wanted to leave with you. This video doesn't show all the steps of cleaning, so you'll need to view the other videos because there's a lot to it. But I wanted to show you one other thing. Now, say you were to get these mixed up. Say you were to get both of these mixed up. Let's say that the disc, the prism disc, was off of both, and you just had these. Well, there's one little hint of which is the left and which is the right. The left has a little divot mark right there. It's got a divot mark that you could make, that someone, well, that could be made if you were punching it with a punch. It's just a small little mark right there. And the right doesn't have that. It's completely smooth. So here's another one. This is the left. If we were to move the cover over, sure enough, there's the little mark right there. And the one on the right doesn't have one. So that's another little indication, a little tip in case these all get mixed up or whatever. And those tips might help you too. One other thing I'll just mention is that when you put everything back together and it's time to check your alignment, it works better if you happen to have some 16x eyepieces, because that enlarges the circle, and it's easier to determine if your circle, your light circle, are centered. Again, as a review, once you have everything back together and you're looking through your eyepieces and your views are a little different, try to find the eye that you should look at it before you take it apart to find out which eye is more correct than the other one. Which view has the closer amount of equal spacing on each side of your focus rod, of your focus bar. When you look through your eyepiece, look at the space on each side, and the one that's closest to being equal, that's the one you're going to mostly rely on as being your good eye, and you'll align your other eye up to that one. So if one eye is the spacing is off, whereas this eye the space looks pretty good, but this eye the space is a little off, well, this eye probably is the one that's going to have to be aligned. So you will first align your light centered on this eye, because this is going to be your good eye, and then when you work on your other eye, it's probably, the light is probably going to center once you align, everything is going to move. It's like when you align this light to the other one, you're going to find that you corrected the space too. So you're just actually moving the view and bringing that light to be centered just like your other light. So those are some things you might want to keep in mind of. But if you use your 16x lenses, and if you don't have any, well, you can't use them, but if you can get some, they really help out on alignment, because your circles are larger, and you can see the space around your circle to see how centered you are in your view. And with the bigger size, it's easier. When the holes are smaller, it's a little harder to tell if your spacing is equal. So those are the tips for now, and before I turn this off, I need to clarify something. I'm talking to you about having equal space on each side, but I haven't mentioned that that's if you have a very straight focus rod that's normally right in the center every time you use it. So if your focus rod really isn't perfectly straight, then you're probably not going to have equal space on each side as you look through it. And so you'll just have to adjust depending on what your focus rod normally is. Now this one, I've marked it because this is the one that I feel is the most true of focus rods I have, and that's why I reference it equal side. But yours, every time you look through it, even on a brand new slit lamp, it's like it might be over a little bit. And so that's your frame of reference. Your frame of reference is what your focus rod is normally, even on a perfectly aligned slit lamp. So if your spacing is that, then that's what you're going to aim for on both eyes. So I may have been assuming that you have a perfectly straight focus rod, but you might not. And so I'm sorry that I presumed that you have one of those. Okay, that's enough tips for today.